achieved what we set out to do, but the car's taking a bit of punishment. I think maybe our pace is a little bit too hard on the car, because there are lots of drains and ruts in the stages, and the shock absorbers are taking some real hard work, and we're having a look at them at the moment. But I think so far things are going well, and hopefully we can keep the pace tomorrow.
Another glorious day in the Western Cape. It was enough to gladden the heart of any tourist, but for competitors on the Agip Rally, it was a work day, with the event moving into traditional Swartland rally country for 7 special stages before the finale back at the Cape Town waterfront. The first stage of the day was in the Darling area, with rally leaders Jan Habach and Douglas Judd once again going straight onto the attack. Despite their 31-second overnight lead, Habach and Judd were in no mood to mess about, with the factory VW Golf kit car really stretching its legs. It was obvious that there was going to be no let-up in the furious pace up front, and it was a simple case of full speed ahead. The first priority for Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide in the Castrol Toyota Conquest was to try and chip away at the overnight lead established by Habach and Judd. The day didn't start off too well for the 6-time champions, with the pair dropping another 7 seconds to the leaders. If the day didn't start too well for Damso and Bonafide, stage 7 was a disaster for Sarel van der Merwe and Martin Botha in the factory Daewoo Lanos. A lower control arm broke, and with the front left wheel flapping around, it was obvious they were going to lose valuable time on what was a 27-kilometre-long special stage.
We broke a lower control arm, which cost us about 1.5 minutes or 1:20, which for all practical purposes puts us out the hunt. Not that we were ever really in it, but that sort of does that.
With van der Merwe and Botha struggling their way through stage 7, the Daewoo challenge was now in the hands of Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson, who were 4th overnight. Kuhn was still complaining about a power disadvantage, but the pair put into action a tactical ploy which they hoped would even out matters.
It's just a plan, you know. We got the problem with the engine and the power, so we're trying to work a plan to get maximum advantage from a clean, swept road. When you get the front cars running over the road, they sweep these type of roads and they turn into almost like a tarmac road. You can hear the rubber squealing on it under braking. So I'm trying to get the advantage of that, and booked in a minute late gives me a 10-second penalty, which I think you know, I could make up again with the advantage.
An interesting insight into rally tactics, but one crew to benefit from the van der Merwe Botha woes were Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the Team Total Toyota Conquest. The Natal crew were forced to hastily rebuild the Conquest's motor on the eve of the rally and were trying to conserve the car. After a miserable run of results, they needed a confidence booster and were now up into 4th place. At the service point at the end of stage 7, there were worried looks in the Daewoo camp as they worked on the van der Merwe car, with a few problems also for top Group N crew, Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen.
Johan, a good day yesterday, first 2 stages today. How are we going?
Yeah, today we're battling a bit. We're finding the open section distances to be a little bit suspect. The one stage was 3 kilometers out. In the stages we're also battling a bit. The safety notes, we're finding places got a little bit too much detail, easy to get lost. We did wrong slot where it showed a 90 right instead of a double back. We wrong slotted lost a bit of time on Hannes there, so we've got a bit of catching up on Hannes to do. But the safety notes in general, I think if you compare them to the pace notes we ran in the Rally of South Africa, much rather prefer them. This one's got too much detail.
Sarel van der Merwe and Skalkeberger in jovial mood while technicians worked on the Daewoo Lanos, but there was nothing to smile about for Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide, with the Castrol Toyota Conquest parked on the side of the road in special stage 9.
Looks like the overheating problem caught us on this event, so eventually the motor just couldn't keep up with the temperature, gave up.
More stage 9 drama, with the Kuhn Hodgson Daewoo Lanos sporting a rearranged front suspension.
Well, I don't really know. I think the shock absorber actually broke because the car started jumping during the stage, yeah. And you know, it felt bad, so we just slowed down the pace and just drove to the end. And then towards the end, I think it just pulled out of the spring completely.
As you went through the...
Yeah, as I went through the flying finish, the wheel came off, so you know, I just struggled it out here. It looks quite bad, but it is no major accident. You know, it just happened probably at 5 k's an hour.
After stage 9, the leaderboard had a new look about it. Jan Habach and Doug Judd were around 3 minutes ahead of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, with Class A6 leaders Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz up into 3rd place in the Dunair Toyota Conquest. After losing over a minute on stage 7 when they strayed from the route, Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding were now on the fringes of the top 10 and had lost the lead in Class A7 to Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch. While van der Walt and Harding were on a mission to catch the Port Elizabeth Traffic Cop, Hannes Hrobler and Dave McGregor were in complete command of the Group N category and Class N3 in the Vodacom Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. Spectator points along the route were packed with festive rally followers, with Hrobler always a firm favourite among the enthusiasts. Burley Port Elizabeth Traffic Cop Keith Coleman is one of rallying's characters, but firmly denies that he's a Cyril van der Merwe protege. While Coleman and Uwe Koch were going along steadily and looking at a Class A7 victory, the spectacular Kali van der Merwe, Andre van Meulen Nissan Skyline was still going strong at the front of the Class S20 field, although the category doesn't score points towards the national championship. Behind the Skyline, Italians Cliff Blackwood and Johan Claassen were still chasing after Hrobler and McGregor, but the gap between the two Group N Nissan Sentras had now stretched to around 3 minutes. Local crew Michael and Ruzenka Weinhardt in an Opel Kadett were among the Class N3 frontrunners and started day 2 in 13th place overall. Veteran Skalkberger and Thilo van Vestenhagen started the day behind the Weinhardts, but a puncture on special stage 9 proved costly for the pair. They now trailed Class N2 leaders Diffie Moreira and Donny de Waal by over half a minute.
I restarted 13 this morning, and I think we just got a broken top hat broken now, and that might put us out for the event, but we're going to try and sort it out and see what we can do.
With a lead of over 3 minutes, reigning champions Jan Habach and Douglas Judd in the factory VW Golf looked to have a tight grip on both the Agip Rally and back-to-back national titles. Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson were mobile again in the Daewoo Lanos and had moved ahead of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the Team Total Toyota Conquest. Lawrence was going along steadily enough and was still nursing his Toyota and his own personal back injury. The Van der Merwe from Meulen Nissan Skyline had disappeared with an overheating problem, and that put journalist Ian Shrosbury and Jerry Heraker into the Class S20 lead in the Castrol Toyota Hilux Bucky.
First experience of rallying, but I'm having a whale of a time. I mean, it's really good fun, and the Bucky is a lot of good fun itself, being rear-wheel drive, you know, tail out kind of stuff, traditional rallying. It's fantastic fun.
Special stage 12, and when Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson in the Daewoo Lanos were followed into the stage by Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, there was no hint of the drama that lay ahead. It was when the pair came upon rally leaders Jan Habach and Douglas Judd on the side of the road that the Agip Rally was turned upside down.
We just tipped a rock on the outside of the rim, and it tore the bottom bolt off on the suspension, and that was it. So we had to stop 2 k's into the stage, and we took the wheel off and then drove for the other 15 kilometers on 3 wheels. And that's obviously now put a big dent in our efforts for today.
Kuhn and Hodgson now led from Lawrence and Paisley, with Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz third, with a bit of a wake-up call around that same troublesome corner for the Dunair Toyota crew. Next through the stage were Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding in the 711 VW Golf, which meant that Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch had gone missing. Group N leaders Hannes Hrobler and Dave McGregor were now 4 minutes ahead of the Blackman Claassen Challenge, with Skalkberger and Thilo van Vestenhagen still chasing after Class N2 leaders Diffie Moreira and Donny de Waal. Answers were also forthcoming on the fate of Coleman and Koch, with the unfortunate Eastern Cape pair rolling after the VW Golf had hit the same rock that claimed the Habach-Judd factory car. An Agip Rally that had produced late drama after late drama was now into the home stretch, with the penultimate stage the traditional dash through the streets of Malmesbury. In only their second outing of the season, Daewoo's Kuhn and Hodgson led Toyota's Lawrence and Paisley. Both crews were now intent on nursing home tired machinery, with survival all that mattered. Just over 2 minutes behind the Team Total Toyota pair, Fecken and Lukowitz were third in the Dunair Toyota Conquest, with the Class A6 title all but tied up. Back at the Cape Town waterfront, all that was now needed was for Kuhn and Hodgson to put the finishing touches to the Agip Rally landscape. Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding were back at the top of Class A7, with Hannes Hrobler and Dave McGregor picking up another Group N victory in the Vodacom Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. Skalkberger and Thilo van Vestenhagen made a brave attempt to catch Class N2 leaders, Diffie Moreira and Donny de Waal, with Cliff Blackman and Johan Claassen losing out in Class N3 to Hrobler and McGregor. Habak and Judd were mobile again to salvage 13th place and 8 precious championship points, with locals Pierre Hussen and the Eugene Blanche third in Class A6. Behind them, a late charge took Tony Ball and Alec Harris into the top 10 in the Bulwer Park VW Golf, with Morer and Duval 9th overall in the slightly battered Tony's Breakdown Services Toyota Corolla. The drive of the day belonged to Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Aris, and they made up 20 places to come home 6th overall. A win for Kiernan Hodgson that came out of the blue for the Daewoo camp. A good result for Lawrence and Paisley. Feckin and Lukowitz wrap up the Class A6 title, and a great performance from Hrobler and McGregor in 4th overall. With Habak and Judd finally finishing 13th, the overall championship will go to the final event of the season, with the gracious Kuhn admitting that a large dollop of luck played a role in the Daewoo triumph.
Hey, we needed some good news, so I think it's good for the team. You know, they really deserve to win. They worked very, very hard. Had a lot of things come off on the car, a lot of things we changed, and I think it's a win for them more than for us. It's nice to bring the new car home in first place.
A delighted Hannes Hrobler and Dave McGregor celebrated their Group N win with the traditional bubbly. And the prize-giving venue was a little out of the ordinary. It took place in the famous Two Oceans Aquarium in the V&A waterfront. And that all brought down the final curtain on an Agip Rally that never lacked in drama.